I got into music when I was 10 years old and got interested in playing the drums and tried to convince my parents to buy me a drum set. But they told me, no, it's just going to be wasted money. So they said, if you can continue playing until you are 13 years old, we will buy you a drum set. So I continued playing on a little practice pad and couches and pillows and stuff. And they kept their word. When I turned 13, Christmas morning, I got a 1972 Slingerland drum set. Yeah, I played music all through high school and met a guy, real good friend of mine, in my first year in high school who played guitar. And so I was a drummer, played with him for a while, and started playing in other bands and found it very frustrating to talk to bass players, and keyboard players, and guitar players, because I didn't know anything melodic. I only knew rhythms and syncopations and things like that. And so I bought a cheap bass, gosh, I don't even remember when that was, and started playing around with that. So I felt like it helped me to communicate better with other musicians. Instead of just humming things, I could actually say, well, this is a G, and this is a D, and this is a B flat, or this is an A, sharp, or whatever. And just kind of picked that up, and then led to the guitar, which, gosh, I don't know how long ago I started playing guitar, 12, 15 years. And that just led into the recording, and so kind of ended up where it is now, actually. When I was growing up, I used to play rock and stuff that was going on in the 80s and that kind of stuff. And went to the University of Tennessee, studied music, and had to learn theory and art, music history, and literally made me want to stop playing music, especially theory. And I had this really Nazi drum teacher who I'd already been playing kit for years, and he made me sit in a room and go over my rudiments time after time after time. And I'm like, this is great, but I was in the studio jazz program. I wanted to play studio jazz. So anyway, that was frustrating. I came back here, and after I got out of high school, played in bands for a while. When I went to college, I kind of had to stop because I didn't have the space for the drums and all that stuff. When I got out, I really missed the music and started getting into writing songs. And writing songs led into, well, what do I do with these songs? And so I started recording them. And in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I've gotten really, with some guys my age, playing kind of traditional rock, blues kind of stuff that mixed with stuff I write, and then some cover stuff in the same vein. And before that, actually, I got interested in music for cinema and movie, things like that, because there was much more of a tie-in between like the visual art and the music that way. Because when I do that kind of ambient or soundtrack music, it's much more introspective. It's much more, I think, reflective than just the visceral thing of playing the guitar, playing the drums. And so it's kind of a dichotomy. One of it's this kind of enjoying playing out and kind of straightforward music, and then the ambient stuff and the soundtrack stuff and the more experimental stuff, I think, is much more in line with like fine art to me than the other stuff. And so it's sometimes they come together, sometimes they don't. It just depends if that answers your question or not. When I got out of grad school, my brain was so full of other people's thoughts about art and what it was and what I had been taught that I took a while off and just kind of cleared my head. And for me, art is all about materials and how you use those materials. And what was always hard for me is, how do you connect that with music? And so I think recently, I'll say the past 5-6 years, it's kind of clicked where I'll have an image, or I'll see something, or I'll hear something, or I'll have, like, I wrote a song called After the Big Freeze, and we had a freeze, and the next day the air was just like harsh, and it was really cold, and it was really wet, but it had an edge to it. And I'm like, well, how do I do that orally? I mean, I could draw a picture of something, like that, but how do I do that orally? And that's kind of where the connection comes in. It's transferring an image that I have or a feeling into a sound, or into a rhythm, or into a combination of the two. Lately, I've been really involved with doing field recordings, and then bringing them back and distorting them and manipulating them and putting synthesizers on them, or making them almost like not sounds. They become this other kind of thing. So I think that's how I kind of tie the two together. They're both making physical, well, music's not actually physical, but a manifestation of a thought is the best way I can put it. It's just in sound as opposed to materials. Inspirations, it can be anything from having a bad day to having a good day to seeing something to having a comment made. I mean, it's varied. I listen to a lot of music for mood and kind of inspiration, or hearing something, a sound, a tone I've never heard before. But for me, it's literally, wow, I'm in a great mood today, and I come in the studio and a melody or a tone or a sound or a memory will try to be connected with a melodic sound or a rhythm or a cadence. And it's not really like, oh, well, you know, I read books and I get an inspiration, or oh, I go to the theater. And all that does happen, but it's usually a common everyday thing. Like somebody will make a comment and use words in a way that I've never heard before, and I go, well, that's kind of cool. Maybe I can translate that. So it can be just about anything. Aspirations. It's hard to talk about that because if you don't do this for a living, if you're not putting in 50 hours a week, not only just writing, but promoting, selling, trying to get outlets for your music, it's really hard to make a living at it. I made a living at it when I was in my teens playing in bands, but I was literally traveling Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the week, and you know, it's hard to do as you get older. Yeah, it'd be great to have somebody listen to something that I wrote and go, I'd love to use this piece in a video or in a movie or in a documentary or whatever. But I do it because I have to do it. I mean, it's an outlet. If I don't do it, you can ask my wife about this, I become this evil thing that just bites people's head off, and I'm not a very pleasant person if I don't have the outlet. And it can be music or the art, it doesn't really matter. But as far as the music goes, whatever, I'm going to keep doing it. I work with some experimental filmmakers. I send some stuff out to some alternative music sites, and I get some good feedback, but it always comes down to the money. People say, oh, I want to use your music. Okay, well, you gonna buy it outright, or are you gonna give me royalties, or are we gonna do percentage? They go, oh no, I just wanted to use it. You don't mind? I'm like, well, yes, I mind. I spent 40 hours of my life writing this. So I really don't have monetary aspirations. But it'd be nice to have somebody, you know, say, hey, I want to buy a CD, or I want to buy a collection, or I want to use this in a video, and I'm willing to pay you this for it. That's very rare, at least in this part of the world. It's getting better though. Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's different every day. What I try to do, this is the second studio I had. The first one was kind of an experiment. This one I kind of planned out, and the sound is nice in here. It's diffused. There's echo, but there's not a lot of echo off the bouncing off the walls by the way I designed the room. And so what I try to do is set it up so when I come in here, I feel like playing the guitar today. I'll have a guitar, I'll plug it up, run into the interface over here, and lay something down, and then that will lead, okay, now we need a rhythm for this. So then I'll go over here, or maybe I'll hook up the drums or whatever. Some days I'll come in, I've got a melody, or I've heard something that makes me think of a passage in music, and I'll have this, you know, the keyboards here, and work out a chord structure or something like that. Then maybe bring in the guitar, or maybe it just all depends. But I kind of set this place up so I don't have to go searching for things. It's all right here, like, oh, I need this. I can just step over and do it without having to walk across the room and dig through a bunch of stuff and go, okay, let me hook this up and plug this up. It's all ready to go. I just flip on the switches and try to get the mood hooked up with some sound or image, for lack of a better term, that I've been thinking about. So